Hi, I'm Jeff Mandell, co-chair of Stafford Rosenbaum's Appellate Practice group. This is the second of 4 videos about oral argument earlier this week in the U.S. Supreme Court in the case of Murr versus Wisconsin. The first video explained a little bit about the case and the facts that led to it. This video is going to talk about the state of the law leading up to this case, to the decision in this case in the U.S. Supreme Court. Under Supreme Court precedent, when courts consider whether a regulation affects a taking of private property, they apply a multifactor balancing test. The relevant factors include the degree of interference that the regulation presents with the reasonable investment-backed expectations that the property owner has, the economic impact of the regulation itself, and the character of the government regulation. But before a court can get to applying that test, and each of those factors has lots of its own facets and issues, before the court can even get to that, it has to define what the relevant property at issue is. This isn't always so easy. For example, consider that you owned a large piece of property that you mostly used as a farm. The property is 100 acres, and you have some of it that you use as fields where you grow crops, some of it that you use as a pasture for different animals, and about 10 acres that you keep covered in wooded acreage. And imagine that there's a government regulation that prohibits you from clearing 1 acre of that wooded area. Maybe that 1 acre includes a wetland or has a certain animal habitat in it. If you were to challenge that regulation and say that the regulation affected a taking of your property, the first question the court would need to decide is how much property is at issue. Is it the 10 acres of wooded land, in which case the regulation is preventing you from doing what you want with 10% of the property? Or is it the entire 100-acre farm, in which case the regulation is only affecting 1% of your property? The determination of what the relevant property is often going to control the outcome of the multi-factor test to determine whether there is a taking. The Murr case is about how courts determine what the relevant property is. In Murr, the Wisconsin courts held that the relevant property was the 2 combined lots that the family owns. The courts held that because the lots merged as a matter of state law, and those lots together could still be developed and used in numerous ways, there was no taking that required government compensation. The Murrs, on the other hand, contend that the relevant property is only the lot that hadn't been developed. And they contend that the regulation that prohibits them from building solely on that lot or selling that lot so that someone else can build solely on that lot renders it largely useless, lowers its value substantially, and constitutes a taking that the government should compensate them for. In the next video, we'll talk about the arguments that were presented to the court by all of the parties.